On Tuesday, the Twins toiled in Trent Blank's Bedlam. Luis Castillo faced off against Chris Paddack, and Matt Brash was absolute nails in the ninth inning. Welcome to the Dom Skeen channel, your one-stop shop for the Mariners storylines on Seattle's minds. And the Mariners win 6-5 in an absolute nail-biter on Tuesday night. They score 5 runs in the third inning as Minnesota follows with 1 in the bottom of the third of their own, then 4 in the bottom of the fourth to tie it up at 5-5. It would stand there until the ninth inning when the Mariners plated the winning run. But how did it all happen? Well, we start with the starting pitching matchup. You had Luis Castillo going up against Chris Paddack. And with Luis, obviously, the strikeouts really haven't been there as of late. Above the surface, it's looked pretty good for Luis Castillo this season. He's got a 3.69 ERA. He's become much more of a high 3s ERA guy than a low 3s ERA guy. He went from being a top 5 starting pitcher 2 years ago and even part of last year to maybe more of a top 20 option back half of last year and into this year. And now he's really feels like more of a top 50 option, especially when you look under the hood and see that behind the surface stats that look pretty good, like the ERA, the expected stats are not great. And even worse than the expected stats, the actual arsenal and skills for Luis Castillo don't seem to be at the top of where they've been. So with Luis Castillo, he's as high variance of a starting pitcher as you'll find in all the major leagues. When he has his changeup, he can be one of the best starting pitchers in Major League Baseball, and when he doesn't have it, he is prone to being one of the absolute worst. In this one, he gets 7 swinging strikes on 91 pitches, so below average rate. That's not very good for Luis Castillo. And his changeup is his 4th most used pitch, which is not a great sign either. However, he did throw it more than we've seen in a long time. He went on 91 pitches, right, 32% four-seam, 27% sinker, 24% slider, 16% changeup. So it's at least becoming a respectable secondary or kind of a secondary pitch rather than just a tertiary pitch that he uses a couple times a game. On 15 of them, he gets 7 swings, gets 1 whiff. Unfortunately, that's not going to be enough, and it got hit hard as well. So when the changeup's not working, he's a 3-pitch pitcher. He's a 4-seam sinker slider guy, and none of those pitches looked awesome either. The slider looked pretty good, though. That had 3 swing and miss on 22, induced the only weak contact of the night for Luis Castillo on that pitch. It was the only one with an average exit velocity that was below 90, and it was at 80.1. All the rest were between 91 and 95. So the average exit velocities, well, they've been all right for a long part of this year. He is doing a better job inducing weak contact than we've seen in the past from him. Without the changeup, it's hard to see where the swing and miss is going to come back. It's clear that he wants that changeup. There was a few starts ago, he didn't throw any changeups, and then I think it was the Orioles start. He gives up the homer to, I think, Rutschman it was, it wasn't on a changeup. Then he throws a changeup to Henderson, gives up a homer on a changeup. Then he's down in the game, right? He's just giving up back-to-back home runs. This was against the Guardians, I believe. But he came out against Manzardo and just starts pumping changeups at him through like 3 or 4 on a 5-pitch at bat. So I know he really wants to find the changeup again, and he's throwing it in game. So that's exciting to see. It's encouraging for the future. Although when it's not working, it's his worst pitch, and it's one of the worst pitches in the majors. And then when it is, it's one of the best. Luis Castillo and his changeup are the story to monitor going through the second half of this year. But then you look at the other side. You got Chris Paddack, another guy who has had top 12, top 15 starting pitcher potential in recent years. Really, 2019 was when he was elite last time. But he only goes 5 innings as well. Just like Luis, gives up 5 runs, but only 4 earned to Luis's 5 earned runs. Allows 5 hits to Luis's 7. And Chris Paddack gets 4 strikeouts and 1 walk to Luis, who got 3 strikeouts and 2 walks. He doesn't allow a homer. Luis does allow 1 homer. They each get hard hit quite a bit. Paddack gets hard hit 8 times, as does Luis. And there's some obvious similarities. Paddack has had a worse year, but had a really good stretch for a few starts, and then gave it back up. And looking at Paddack's swing and miss, he only had 8 on 80 pitches, so 8 swing strikes on 80 pitches isn't going to, 10% swing strike rate. That's okay. It's not terrible, but Chris Paddack is an extreme swing and miss guy, not usually a guy who's going to induce a lot of weak contact. Quite the opposite. So to see that he got away with a few, average exit velocity of 86.7, under 79 on both the slider and the changeup, but over 93 on both the sinker and the four-seamer. And then the curveball didn't get hit at all. He throws 49% four-seam, 28% slider, 18% change, 5% curve, 1% sinker. And looking at that, right, when you come out 49% four-seam against the Mariners, we should put some runs up. So I'm glad that we small balled it up on him and squared those up. We've also been hitting the breaking ball a bit better as of late, though. The sinker here got hit really hard. And then, the slider and the changeup we didn't hit well off of Paddack. But we did hit well off of Ober. His changeup, and I believe his slider as well. I think Julio's home run might have been on the slider. So we're getting better with breaking balls overall. Last night was not a step in the right direction in that regard, but you still won the game, and in spite of it. And then looking at those 2 starting pitchers each go 5 innings. The game is tied 5-5. It felt like the Mariners really got ahead with the big inning. Felt like we were really churning through Chris Paddack and his pitches. We go to the plate, we're churning through the pitcher's pitches rather than him churning through our lineup. The way that we're controlling the zone right now, I think we've just got a great blend of platoon bats and superstars. And this is an easy thing to say, when you have an MVP and then you have hot platoon bats, but I really see some signs of things that are here to stay, especially with Donovan Solano. This is a guy he was so cold, and now he's so hot. He goes 2 for 4, 2 RBIs, just 1 strikeout. He is batting .266 with a .678 OPS, one of the higher ones on this team, and a middle of the order bat now for us. Plus his approach, if you actually watch, he is so good at getting his hands through. When he's hot, he's a joy to watch at the plate. Then you look at Cole Young getting 2 hits in this one. There's 3 Mariners who got 2 hits of our 7 hits total. And Cole Young was one of them as well. He is now batting .254 on the season with a .586 OPS. And so again, if you were to bring in, say, a second baseman at the trade deadline, not saying that Cole Young would stop you, but I think quite the opposite at this point. I was talking to somebody about Ketel Marte. I know 7 to 10 was talking about trading for Ketel Marte today, which if Arizona does decide to start selling, then it makes absolute sense to bring him back to Seattle. He'd fit into the lineup, very, very well. He's the greatest offensive second baseman in baseball right now. But you look at Cole Young, he's a really solid young player on a really team-friendly deal, and you don't want to say, hey, we were prioritizing your development this whole time, we've been investing in it. Now we're going to go a different direction and just send you back to the minors or put you on the bench. And that will tank his value as well. So even though you'd be getting a lot of value with Marte, I think the only way that this makes sense for us or for Arizona is if Cole Young is part of a Ketel Marte package. And that actually starts to sound like, if I'm Arizona, I might consider that. You've got an aging core with like the Suarez's, even the Christian Walkers there. And then you get a guy like Cole Young. It's basically what you did to get Ketel Marte from Seattle in the first place. You get a guy who was a good prospect. Ketel Marte, it's hard to say he was even as good as Cole Young is as a prospect. Let's see, I'm going to talk about this more as we go through this, trade deadline cycle. But that's something that we're going to be looking into. I think that's a very reasonable trade for both teams. Cole Young has to start that package for Ketel Marte. You've got to throw somebody in there to. I mean, I don't think Ketel's contract is so big that the Mariners couldn't take it on, but you might just need to include a Garver for the money to work it all. And then I don't really know exactly where else you go, because you can throw in the prospects. I'd be fine giving up Cole Young, Harry Ford, and maybe even a Colt Emerson. I mean, at this point, even though those guys are so great, we have limited spots in the lineup. I'd rather really go all in and investing on the safest option of those, which would be Ketel Marte, playing with the lineup currently constructed. And when you do that, I mean, I'm really just not worried about depleting the farm at shortstop. We have so many guys there. With Colt Emerson, like Cole Young, Harry Ford, like these guys all could be great. They will not hold value if they don't get everyday reps in Seattle soon. And Cole Young, it was becoming time. Harry Ford, it's really becoming time. Like, he's doing really well into AAA. The excuse of keeping him to develop defensively as a catcher is great for now. But, again, you can't bring him up every day because you've got the MVP playing catcher for the Seattle Mariners, and you can't. You can't bring him up just to sit him on the bench. You keep him in Tacoma. Yeah, he's still developing and he gets the everyday playing time, but eventually, like, he's got to take that next step, and it looks like he's finally ready. Harry Ford looks more and more like somebody that'll get moved this deadline, unless we trade Garver to make the contract situation work as part of this trade. So say Cole Young, Garver, and then throw in Arroyo maybe. I mean, he's another, or it would probably be some pitchers at that point that you throw in. But it's going to be interesting to see. 710's talking about it. I'm talking about it now. They got me talking about it. So yeah. So Cole Young, another Mariner that gets 2 hits along with Solano, and then Cal. Obviously, Cal Raleigh, 2 for 4, 1 strikeout, 1 walk, 1 RBI, 1 run scored, and hits the double in the first inning. He is now up to 281 with a 1053 OPS. And we just have to have this conversation now. How many points of batting average does Judge need to be ahead of Cal Raleigh at the end of the season to win the MVP award? Assuming Cal Raleigh has, say, 5 more homers, similar on counting stats, except for stolen bases. Cal will, let's say Cal does get to 20 stolen bases. It's going to be real interesting, when you factor about 80 to 100 points of batting average versus platinum glove defense at catcher. And then you look at the rest of the lineup. Quite a few guys going hitless tonight, but still not too many strikeouts. We only struck out, 8 times in this game. The Twins themselves only struck out 6 times. So both teams did a really good job of controlling the zone. A really close game. But the main thing that happened in this game that I've been kind of putting off is the fact that, and I wanted to give the credit in the title for this to Trent Blank, the pitching strategy expert for the Mariners. This guy, and what he does with the bullpen, with the Mariners pitching lab altogether. One of the few things I know about him is that he said that he would have drafted Brian Wu first overall just because he saw that much in his innate pitching stuff. He didn't have great numbers in college. He'd been injured, played at Cal Poly, not the biggest school, but Trent Blank is willing to be so out there with his opinions about pitching that he's been revolutionary, and that's why he's our director of pitching strategy now. You look at the bullpen members that come in. I don't think there's any better way, if you were to say watch one game, to tell me exactly what the best of this bullpen can offer is. It would be this. You get the matchup specialist, the contract killer. Gabe Spire comes in, gets the 2 outs you need from him, allows 1 hit, doesn't even get a strikeout, but 12 pitches, gets the 2 outs you need. He is a contract killer against those freaking lefties. And then you got Carlos Vargas who comes in after that, and this might have been Carlos Vargas' best appearance of the season. He gets 4 outs, walks 1 guy, doesn't strike anybody out. But as Angie said, The ball was alive. He was hitting triple digits. I mean, that ball was barely staying on the plate. The way that the ball was moving for Vargas last night was just special. Some of the best stuff of any reliever in the game today. And, a lot of fans will be really glad that you forgave him for some very brief hiccups in the early season, because you look at who he is right now. He is our righty matchup specialist, or he's just the guy, like, when we need somebody but we can't call on one of the premier guys, it's still the 6th, 7th inning. This is the guy in the 6th, 7th inning for us. Then this is the bold strategic decision, which Dan makes, but I'm sure Trent informs, which is the fact that you pitch Andres Munoz in the 8th inning. You go after the hard part of that lineup. And also what you do is you do it when you still have a tie game, because you're showing faith in your offense that they're going to score. And not even just give a save opportunity, but it could not be a save opportunity. You could have a 5-run lead by the time you get back around to the bottom of the 9th. So you put Munoz in, you keep this game close, and what do you expect? 15 pitches, 1 inning pitched, 2 strikeouts, 0 damage. Andres Munoz in the 8th inning is a bold choice, but it's the one that needed to be made. And then Matt Brash comes in, gets his first save of the season, grabs a strikeout on 13 pitches, and looks absolutely disgusting, just like Munoz, Vargas, and Spire before him. This is a playoff bullpen, and this is playoff bullpen strategy. So I was extremely fired up after this one. I mean, you have Gabe Spire, his new name is going to be the contract killer, the lefty specialist. Carlos Vargas, I mean, this is the Mr. Reliable, I'd say. Andres Munoz, he's the closer. He's the guy. And then Matt Brash, still, I'm not even going to say it. Not even going to talk about, his basic stats. Go look at his stats, the most basic pitching stats from Matt Brash, and you'll see, very, very, very elite numbers. But then you look at the actual stuff for Matt Brash. Even though there's only one swinging strike on 13 pitches, it was on the knuckle curve. The way that he throws 6 sliders in this, and he keeps throwing these sliders, that he comes back and pumps 97 on the sinker. It is just disgusting to try to wrap your head and eyes around as a hitter. Matt Brash is an anomaly in the history of baseball when it comes to sliders and really breaking balls as a whole, for that matter. The slider and this knuckle curve for Brash, it's easy to forget, we didn't see him last year, just how insane these pitches move. And the way that Vargas's pitches were moving earlier, it allows you to use Brash in those later leverage situations. Excellent bullpen usage. Just, I think these guys were just put in spots to win, in a really, really close, tough game that felt like a playoff game. It felt like a game with a lot of gravity if you win it in the 9th inning. It's great to have these, especially when you get into these big, high-scoring games with blowouts, to have 7 innings where you don't score and 2 where you do exactly what you need to do. Anyway, game today starts in about an hour and a half. We have another great pitching matchup of guys who were top prospects as pitchers. Joe Ryan going up against George Kirby. And Kirby has really struggled this year since coming back from injury in just a couple starts. Oh, sorry. What am I talking about? Oh, no. Yeah. I was looking at the wrong thing for a second. But you've got the Twins have released a lineup. So they got Buxton, Larnett, Castro, Correa, Wallner, France, Clemens, Bader, Vasquez. Man, if you can get into the bottom half of this lineup, I know Cody Clemens did some damage to us yesterday. The Ty France, a great opportunity to induce double plays and just ground balls and weak contact. It's a guy who, if anybody's scouted him, it's us. Harrison Bader, bad stats on the surface this year. I mean, there's guys to go after in this lineup. Christian Vasquez catching today in place of Ryan Jeffers. Then you got, Kirby's stats just are not good yet. He's been walking too many guys. He's been looking like he's pressing. He looks really stressed out just looking at the emotion on his face. I want to see him have a little more command. We talked about this earlier in the year with Bryce Miller, where it felt like he wasn't commanding enough respect and attention. It was just something about the demeanor and the mound presence. And Kirby, I feel like, he has the mound presence where everybody's locked in on Kirby. He has that type of ace mound presence. I just have seen him get so stressed out that it's uncomfortable to watch this year. He's making some of the faces that Bailey Ober and Zach Eflin make when they pitch. And George Kirby should be the antithesis of that. He should be the ultimate control guy, who doesn't pitch to contact, just pitches away from contact and lives on the edges. Some of the best control of all time, we're talking about George Kirby. As far as what he needs to do this year, to me it seems mental. I don't want to break down his, all of his starts more than we already have, because certain things look really, really good, especially for an inning or two. I think the consistency and stuff, it comes with mound presence, mental, and George Kirby, a guy who's very rhythm focused, very rhythm based, pitches to dubstep, a big EDM guy. This guy's very rhythm based, and once he gets in a rhythm, I think it'll continue. But we're just hoping that it happens sooner than later. And with that being said, for today's game predictions, I'm gonna go with 7-1. I'm gonna say that we do a really good job of limiting hard contact from the Twins tonight. I say that Kirby has his best start of the season. I'm going to say that he gets, he had the 14 strikeout effort, obviously. Again, which shows that when he gets in a groove, he'll be good. But I'm going to say that George Kirby gets 9 strikeouts because he does seem like he's pressing for them right now. And if he does have a good start, I have to imagine the strikeouts will be very, very high in that case. So we're going to go 9 strikeouts for George Kirby. I do not usually predict it that high, but I'm going to go out on a limb. We had some great predictions with Donovan Solano this past weekend, predicting him to hit the homer, and he hit 2. Today, though, when you're looking at Joe Ryan, a guy who throws a lot of four-seamer, not that hard, and somehow has excellent stats. He does get hit hard sometimes, so Julio hits the ball as hard as ever, as hard as anybody. I'm going to take Julio to hit a homer today. I think he's going to get his second of the series, and 7-1. I think we win this game. I think we take the series and go into tomorrow's day game, able to rest some of our guys and have back Emerson as he looks to skate through that game before we have a getaway day. Anyway, that's going to do it for today. I will see you guys to recap tonight's game tomorrow. Go M's.